right, so voting power. We're really diving into why your vote matters, especially now, right? Like election season's heating up.
Mm.
And we're going to unpack how this one group, Durham Delivers, is really kind of shaking things up when it comes to, getting people engaged and getting people out to vote.
Absolutely.
You probably heard that quote like a million times, your vote is your voice.
Right.
But we're going way deeper than that, okay? We found this really interesting playbook by the Setzer Group.
Okay.
And the thing that caught my eye, the thing that really grabbed my attention, was how they're not just like, go vote.
Yeah.
They're giving you all these very concrete ways to make it easier.
Yeah.
Especially for their own employees, which I thought was really interesting.
It is. It's refreshing, isn't it? Like, they're actually walking the walk.
Yeah.
And one of the things they really emphasize is making sure people understand the entire ballot, like
Nice.
from top to bottom, everything.
Not just the big names.
Exactly.
It's like we all get excited about like the president or the senator or whatever, but are we really paying attention to like the school board elections, the propositions? I mean, this is the stuff
those are the things.
It's like your day-to-day life.
Absolutely. And that's where I think that deeper understanding of the ballot comes in. And the Setzer Group even uses this phrase, knowing the routes. Like you're mapping out a strategy.
I like that.
Because your vote for the school board could have a way bigger impact on your kid's education than like who's in the White House.
100%.
Yeah.
And speaking of local impact, that's what I think makes this group, Durham Delivers, so fascinating. Especially right now, early voting is about to start in North Carolina.
Yeah.
They are laser focused on getting people out to vote, maximizing voter turnout. And they have this really incredible strategic plan.
Yeah, and it's important, I think, to understand the context here. North Carolina is notorious for having these really, really close elections. Like, we're talking a handful of votes can literally make or break it.
Wow.
So Durham delivers work, even though it's local, it has this potential to have these ripple effects across the entire state, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah. And they use this term, and I absolutely love this, bonus voters.
Yes.
And these are folks who are new to Durham, maybe first-time voters, or people who maybe haven't voted in a while.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about why this group in particular is so critical for them to reach?
Well, I think it's strategic on a couple of levels.
Okay.
First of all, these bonus voters, they often represent these demographics that haven't really had a voice in elections,
Yeah.
historically been underrepresented. So engaging them can, potentially shift the balance of power.
Interesting.
And secondly, because they're not already like set in their ways, right?
Yeah, right.
They're not ingrained in some particular voting pattern. They're more likely to be persuaded by all these targeted outreach efforts.
So they're more open. And Durham Delivers has some really cool tactics to do just that. Like one of them that I was just like, what was this whole vote tripling?
Yes. I'm so fascinated by this approach.
I know.
It really speaks to the power of like your social network.
It does. So for anybody who's listening who's like, what is vote tripling? It's essentially you vote, okay?
Right.
And then you encourage 3 people in your circle to do the same thing. It could be friends, family, that neighbor you always wave to, but don't actually know their name.
Right.
But it creates this ripple effect.
Exactly. And, there's even research that shows that people are much more likely to vote if somebody they know personally, like somebody they trust, encourages them to do it.
Oh, interesting.
It's that human connection.
The human connection. I love it. Okay, so the way they have all of this organized, it's like this well-oiled machine, but in a good way. Like it's not it's not corporate, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they have these congregation captains working with churches and synagogues. They've got organizers that are hyper-focused on getting young people registered. They even have these fellows who are supporting high schoolers who are getting involved in this process for the very first time.
It's amazing. Like they're not just talking about it. They're actually going out and doing it.
Exactly.
And
speaking of getting out there and doing it.
Yeah.
Our sources didn't just give us like a document, be like, all right, talk about this.
Right.
They actually gave us homework.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Which I kind of love.
It's one thing to talk about it. It's a whole other thing to actually like put it into practice.
Exactly. So first things first, everybody listening right now.
Yes.
I need you to check your voter registration status.
Right.
And don't worry.
Right.
It is so easy. Vote.org has this super simple tool. You just like put your information in. It takes like 2 minutes tops.
2 minutes tops. And it's such an easy thing to do, but you'd be surprised how many people forget until the last minute. Or they move and they forget to update their address, or...
Oh, that's a good point.
so many
That's a
things.
really good point.
Yeah, checking your registration just gets rid of all that election day stress.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, next up, early voting. Okay, I'll admit, I used to be that person that was like, I'm voting on election day. That's how you do it.
Right.
But honestly, early voting is so much easier.
Yeah.
Shorter lines, more flexibility, and usually you can even like avoid taking time off work or
Absolutely.
juggling a million things.
And plus, you never know what's going to happen on election day. You could
Yeah.
have bad weather. You could have some crazy thing at work. Who knows?
Right. Exactly.
Early voting just gets it out of the way.
It does. It really does. Okay, and now for like the fun part, vote tripling.
Yes.
Remember we talked about this?
Yeah.
You vote,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get 3 other people in your life to do it too.
I love it.
This is where you become like the voting influencer.
Exactly. And it's this powerful reminder that, like, even in our normal everyday lives, we have influence over other people.
We do.
And we can use that for good.
And you don't have to make it this big thing. Like, you don't have to be like, let's get into a huge political debate. It could just be like, hey, are you registered?
Right.
Did you know early voting starts next week? Like, little nudges
Exactly. It
can make a big difference.
Because sometimes people want to vote.
Mm.
They just need a little reminder or maybe a little help figuring out, like, how to do it.
Totally. And here's the thought that I find kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah.
There are tons of elections throughout history that have been decided by just a handful of votes.
Oh, absolutely.
Like your one vote
Yeah.
plus those 3 people that you get to go out.
Right.
They could literally swing an election.
100%. And it's such a good example of how, like, all of our individual actions, even if they seem small,
Yeah,
can have
so-
these huge impacts that
Like-
we might not even realize, you know? And when you think about it on, like, a bigger scale,
Yeah.
all those little things add up
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
this wave of civic engagement that can really, truly create change.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
It makes me think about this idea that we've kind of been circling around this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
The connection between local action and national impact.
It really is. It's so interesting, right? We always think about, like, national elections as these huge, like,
Yeah.
almost separate from our normal lives.
Yeah.
But the truth is, it all goes back to those local efforts.
Yes.
Every single vote, every conversation,
Yeah.
every person who's just like, you know what? I'm going to get involved in my community.
Yeah.
Those things have ripple effects.
They really do. It's like that saying, think globally, act locally.
Yes.
But in this case, it's like those local actions actually have national consequences.
100%. And those consequences can be so positive. Like, when people feel empowered at the local level, when they see that they can actually make a difference
Right.
in their own communities,
Yeah.
it creates this more engaged citizenry overall,
Oh, for sure.
more informed.
Yes. And that means better representation, better policies,
Yes.
a stronger sense of community.
Exactly.
It's like this chain reaction of good.
Exactly. And it's not even just about, like, who wins the election.
Right.
It's about strengthening democracy as a whole, right?
That's a good point.
When people actually get involved,
Yeah.
it gives them this sense of ownership. They actually feel like they have a stake in shaping the future, you know?
And that is so important, especially now
Right?
when it feels like everything's so polarized and divided.
Yes.
It's like this good reminder that, like, at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
we're all part of the same community.
Yeah.
We all have a voice.
Absolutely.
And we can make a difference.
100%.
I love that. Okay, so as we're wrapping up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I'm left with this feeling of like, okay, things might feel a little crazy out there right now. But there are people who are doing the work.
Yes.
And it starts
Right.
right in their own backyard.
Exactly.
And it starts with that one vote,
Yes.
that one conversation,
Yeah.
that one, like, small act of civic engagement. So my final thought for everybody listening,
Okay.
what kind of ripple are you going to create?